Remembering Earth's mission with the Ancient Ones, number 6. The encounter 50,000 years ago. Eve kicked the loose sand with her feet as she walked with Adam. The nagging feelings were still with her and marred the peace she usually felt in their garden. Eve slowed her pace, thinking of what her ancient teacher had introduced. She had reminded Eve that in this world there are societies of outsiders who constrict the vibrancy of life. Deep in thought, Adam moved a little ahead of her. He was rounding the bend when Eve looked up. She hurried to catch up with him. Then she felt it, a wish and a sharp twist in her belly, her solar plexus center. Eve held the energy spot as she stopped and leaned over to catch her breath. She felt lightheaded, a bit dizzy. She stood, and as Eve stood, her eyes locked onto the eyes of a stranger. Who was this one in their garden? Eve stood, eyes open, senses alert. Adam looked at her, sensing her hesitancy without understanding it. He reached out for her hand, and together they walked toward the place where the stranger stood, smiling. Chapter 6, Current Day. With each lifetime on the earth that mission volunteers found themselves in recurring situations. Sexual rape by a parent in one lifetime took the form of abuse by a spouse in another. Anger and rage at a mother's unfulfilled promise of protection became an unreasonable distrust of women in the next. Death from rocks hurled by an angry mob became dull back pains in another lifetime. And so the mission force who came to give their gifts experienced the power of outsider enslavement and the debilitating effect of control and fear. In each lifetime, domination and chaos appeared unbidden and sabotaged their life. Earth's density dimmed their consciousness. Their divine gifts were like dreams, silly possibilities, and cynicism replaced hope. With their fractured memory of home, Earth life was empty. They buried parts of themselves to survive, and so there were questions: who am I? Why am I here? Can't others see the craziness of this place? What is my mission, my purpose? Will I recognize the call? When can I go home? Their spiritual friends continued to speak to them, but the curtain of darkness became dense. The frequencies that carried the spiritual guidance was distorted, and the words of mission were lost. The volunteers felt isolated and abandoned. They were confused at the insanity they saw on the planet. At various times, they tried to step out of the density and the pain, but the distorted wiring, false body patterns kept them stuck. Tuma, who is now Rory. Rory felt shaken. He was troubled by the events of the afternoon. His years as a counselor had been moderately satisfying and fulfilling in the ways he had hoped. Too many clients slipped deeper into despair, the casualties of society seemed to be getting worse. How could he help them and stop the escalation? This sense of despair was not a new feeling. What was disconcerting were the visions. At first, night dreams that he had accepted and ignored. Lately, they had begun to filter in during his days. Delusions, or what his colleagues would call them. Rory had assured himself that it was just stress, that he would be more consistent with his self-care. But this afternoon, the woman he had checked into the center had unnerved him. Somehow her eyes in his dreams were connected. He didn't even understand that idea. Now he was concerned. The images were no longer only night visions. Myra, who is now Jerry. Jerry wept, holding her dog close. What was the matter with people? Her parents said she was too sensitive. No need to be at all upset at others' pain. Life is not always smooth or even just. There are more important things to worry about, like school assignments, plans for the future, they said. But Jerry's heart cried out, why the pain? Why the glitches, the divisions? She saw hurt everywhere and asked, why? People were so isolated and hostile. Their pessimism made the world ugly. Why? Echoed throughout her being. Jera, who is now Bob. Jera, who is now Bob, slipped his backpack to the ground and stretched. He threw his arms out and sucked in the mountain air, the scent of trees, water, wildflowers. Being in nature made his life worthwhile. He lived for the weekends to get away from the busy rush and isolated living of the city. He loved the peace and beauty of his mountains. How long had it been since his last visit? 2 months? No, 3. Much too long. Dana, who is now known as Pam. Pam leaned on the pole for support. Her head throbbed. To hell with life, she thought. I'm through. From now on, I fight like everyone else. Whatever I need to do to survive, I'll do. There's no one but me to take care of me. She thought her father would never stop. And where was her mom? Just where she'd always been, working in the kitchen as if nothing was wrong. Her anger at the man she had known as father was surpassed only by the rage she felt at her mother. She'd never go back, no matter what she had to do.